ain't your average entertainment show. More than entertainment than what's on the screen. Connecting dots on what you see.
And I'm so happy to have with me right now my next guest. Had an opportunity to meet him a few years back at the Black Hollywood Film Festival. The amazing Sebastian Siegel. Sebastian, good to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm excellent, Paul. It's great to see you too.
Hey, my friend. I have enjoyed you for many years on the screen, and it's been an awesome just to see you in many different genres of movies and things like that. And Sebastian, before we talk about like some of the things that you have that you're working on now, what made you want to get into the entertainment industry? What was it?
You know, as a kid, I think that the interest in theater was a place that just felt comfortable. The ability to get to know another person and share with another person, and then also hold space for another person and allow anything to come up. So feeling angst or feeling joy or feeling insecurity or feeling elation, that I think that theater was a great stage, so to speak, to be able to become more familiar with myself and then allow that also, in other words, more familiar with my own emotions, what I'm feeling, let those things funnel out, come through. And I found that process to be cathartic, and then to be able to also hold that space for someone else.
And Sebastian, when we look at how young you were when you decided to do something like this, 7 years old, is that correct, what I heard?
When I first started my interest, yes, in theater and in plays, and it would just seem like something I had no idea, no relation to that in terms of performance, right, or in terms of entertainment, but just that process, was definitely right away to me felt like a game of revealing and sort of self-identity that was satisfying and fun. And it also built relationships that were immediately intimate, where you could immediately get to know someone right away under this sort of, unsaid agreement that we're going to share and relate to each other with this authenticity and allow these things to come up as we feel them.
And Sebastian, when I look at your family, you have some incredible people in your family line, your father, your grandfather. How did their experience or your experience interacting with them and their journey help mold you as a person? Because you're one of those ones in the industry that's a well-grounded person, who's just, everyone I talked to who's interviewed you, they enjoy talking to you like I did many years ago. Talk about the experience of your father and your grandfather and how that played a part in your life.
My father, very much so. He was a professor of comparative religions, and so I think that he was always outrageous and sort of liberated and never kind of felt pressured by rules, and yet he was respected by his peers and by other professors. And also being a professor of comparative religions, he had an appreciation and understanding for all religions in the world. And I think that perhaps as a boy, seeing that, I was able to emulate something about non-judgment, about being open-minded, about also just the sort of mystical magic woven into the fabric of the cosmos, and also of the human being, that every human being is a miracle, that there's something to be discovered within every human being that is spectacular, no matter who the human being is, and then also in ourselves.
And Sebastian, when we look at just kind of like the industry as a whole, why is having an open mind so important when you get different acting roles, different opportunities out there? Why is that so important to have, especially in the industry? Mindedness
is, that flexibility for creativity is important on a number of reasons. For two primary reasons. One is that obviously making a film or making a show, we're bringing to light something that involves so many skill sets and talents in different departments. So whether that's directing or producing or writing or acting or makeup or wardrobe or lighting, et cetera, that the final product is ultimately a marriage and a synergy between all those different departments. that one department is not more important than the other, and they're all dependent upon one another. And so, in other words, any individual in any department must go forward saying, I know what my role is as one instrument in this song, and I'm going to play it, but I'm also going to play it flexibly, because the director might set up the shot in a certain way and direct the actor in a certain way. If I'm the actor in this case, then I might be directed. So I've got to trust that director. I've also got to trust the writing on the page. What the individual who wrote those lines is really saying. I got to pay attention to the comma and the period. Why is that there? And feel what that is. And then also the makeup and the wardrobe and, et cetera. So the flexibility and the open-mindedness comes to going and preparing and coming to a set and saying, I'm going to deliver my thing, but I'm going to have a pliability and a flexibility. That's one, I think, important part in terms of the artistry of it. And then also in terms of the pragmatic business aspect of it, it requires flexibility because it might not go as we want, and that requires a certain flexibility. And open-mindedness, that even on a small commercial or small movie, you're looking at 100 people, and a large, you could look at, 1,000 or more people. And so the odds are that in a course of a month or 3 months or 6 months, someone is going to come to set with some sort of devastation, the loss of a parent or a friend or a lover or a child. And we can't bring that to work. We've got to be compassionate, and we've got to lift other people up no matter what they're going through. And we have to demand that of ourselves, because I think the nature of entertainment requires that flexibility and that open-mindedness and that creativity in order just to allow the structure to move forward, in order to allow the ship to sail.
And Sebastian, when we look at the industry as a whole, how has the industry changed over the years, in your opinion, when you first got your first acting gig to where we're at today? What has been the major changes that you have seen?
I think because so many years ago, it was so hard to get any foot inside. That there probably was a complacency amongst many people in certain areas where they would get a foothold and they would be, the producer or the writer, the director. And so there were a lot of extraordinary people, in any field throughout time. But I think particularly in entertainment, you might have someone taking advantage and become entitled in that opportunity, so that then they stopped treating people with dignity and with care and with respect. We've all heard stories about producers, directors, being condescending to people. And I think now the talents become, in a lot of ways, less important. And what becomes more important is the can-do, make-it-happen attitude, the willingness to be flexible, the willingness to give oneself to the work, the willingness to really show up, not just for ourselves, but for other people. That's become now a requisite. And so I think that the industry is taking changes and has changed in the ways to be so much better, to make it possible for so many people to be able to contribute to a project. And if the person is just not kind, they're not going to last, they're not going to endure. And I think that's a positive thing. That's a great thing.
I'm glad you hit on that, Sebastian, because it seems like the newer talent that are coming up, they have a team around them that, and not all, just a few, that kind of gives them unreal expectations of what to expect. Like, you already made it right here. You're a star already. We're going to be drama when it comes to the media. We're going to do all this and all that. And Sebastian, what bit of advice, as someone who's been in industry for some time, great accomplishment, great credits as a writer, as a producer, and even an actor, what kind of advice would you give ones out there as far as when they start the journey, how humility plays a key?
I think that it's a great question, because it's really a question of character. I think that humility is something that allows the world to be beautiful. And I think that if somebody is taking on humility for the utility of success, that it's not going to work. I think that, we have to be humbled by the spectacle of the grandeur of this world. You know, we have to be humbled by the majesty of God. We have to be humbled by the gloriousness of what's going on, and just the sheer joy of being able to connect with other human beings. And I think in that humility, that brings about more joy, more play, and more opportunities in that way. Right? You know, that when we come to a door, we don't know what's on the other side of that door, who's on the other side of that door, but we come to offer, and we come to give, and we come to show up, and we come to, you know, to support, that we're welcomed in. But we can never think, we can never change that based on what might be on the other side of that door. Right?
Yeah.
You know, what's the grand plan of spirit or of God, or however someone would hold that? We have to have total faith in that. Trust is wanting something to work out a certain way. Or hope is, but faith is saying it doesn't matter what works out or what doesn't. I'm stepping forward with all of my love, no matter what. So I think that, in short, the humility brings abundance, but the humility must be just out of sheer appreciation for this one instant that we get to live in this world, whether it's 15 years, 50 years, or 100 years.
Yeah. Wow. I love that, Sebastian. You know that.
Wow, every time I see you,
Yeah.
you know, and it's inspiring when we get to see it in someone else. We say, man, this person just loves life.
Yeah.
They love life, right? And that fills us with this electricity.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. And when we look at like some of your accomplishments, I always say, and I talk to my team about this about you, your roles are very impactful. You know, I remember in The Family That Prays, your role took us from, we didn't know what was going on until you walked into that boardroom, and these roles that you get, they seem to just fit you perfectly because you bring it so much justice. I mean, that shows, you know, your acting chops that you do have. And what does it take for you to get into a role and into a character, because you do it so well?
You're a gentleman. You're a sweetheart. You know, I'm going to have to defer to casting, because I think that a great director and a great casting director is casting archetypally. That at a certain level, you know, let's say like at The Family That Prays, that every actor who reads for that role is going to be qualified, is going to do a great job, is going to, you know, do it justice. So it comes down to which actor is really that person, which actor has that pain or that resilience or that joy or whatever that character is, which actor has that deep inside of them, because that's going to come out most naturally and most truthfully through that actor. So I think I've just been fortunate to not get the roles that I wasn't perhaps archetypally that character, and was able to get the roles that I think suited me in some way. And I think that in The Family That Prays, this guy who sort of has everything, loses it all, lives on the street, and then, you know, is able to sort of be this kind of quiet hope message, you know, hopeful character. I think that probably that lives in me somewhere in a way that is gentle and is natural. So I'm going to defer I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to thank casting for letting me be as much me as I can. And I think even in the characters that are bad guys, yeah, right? We have to like the bad guys in some way. You know, if we can find a way to say, oh, I love hating that guy, right? You know, or I hate loving that guy, or I hate loving that woman, you know, that we have to, that there has to be some sort of something, you know, because every person, no matter who they are, has some sugar in there,
That's
you know,
true.
has some sort of beauty in there, you know, and if the actor wants to bring that out, you know, the actor can't try to be mean or try to be bad, right?
No, I get it. I definitely get it. And when you look at just your career, what's been the most, if you don't mind sharing, the most challenging part of this industry, and how you overcame those different challenges?
That's a great question. The inconsistency, yeah, because the work, you know, both as a means to make a living and also as a means to express by nature, and the work is, you know, come and go. You know, it goes and it's fantastic, and then all of a sudden there's a huge dry spell, right? And every person in entertainment has experienced it, even the most successful in the world. And the way I've been able to apprehend that is by giving myself creatively to other things that are also expressive in entertainment. And again, it kind of dovetails back to the beginning of our conversation about the flexibility and the open-mindedness. There was a period where I wasn't working that I needed to be creative, so I shot a documentary film. I paid for it myself. I wrote, produced, directed it. It's called Awakening World. It's questions: what's the purpose of life? What's heaven? What's hell? What's intimacy? And I went around interviewing people from all walks of life, and that was very meaningful and satisfying for me. I then took that film into jails with incarcerated youth, and that was very satisfying for me. I really started as a writer and as a director because I was working as an actor, and then all of a sudden I wasn't working for a period of a really long time. And so then I started writing. It took a long time to develop the skills that I needed to hone those, a lot of commitment and sacrifice. A lot of missing different birthdays and weddings and events and weekends in order to do that. But that ultimately was important for me to express something from within. And so I was only able, in other words, to cultivate the skill sets as a writer and as a director and as a producer because there was such a period of no work as an actor. And so I'm grateful for those things. And I think that's a real biblical sort of thing that I think occurs for all of us, that we come to a point of starvation and it's a blessing in some way. But when we're in it, we're like, no, I'm just a little hungry. Come on,
Yes.
Please, this is what I want. This is what I want. But when we can say, you know what, I'm just going to starve a little bit, and we turn around and then all of a sudden there's this glory somewhere else.
Yeah. Ask, seek, and knock, right? That's what we do, right?
Ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be open unto thee.
Look at you behind the scenes now, writer, director, producer. Do you feel you're more free doing that than acting? Which one shows you the most freedom and shows off the most of your art skills and your creativity?
Thanks for that question. I'm shooting a movie next week in Hawaii.
Wow.
I'm so fortunate to go to Hawaii to shoot a movie. I'm so lucky. And I haven't worked in a while.
No. I'm your PA, right? I get to go with you, right?
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. I'm starting to prep for that right now. And I'm excited because as an actor, it's just fun to get lost in that role. Yeah, and it's something that I can focus all my attention on without the concerns of producing and without the concerns of the success of the production, etc. And so there's a certain pliability and joy in that simplicity, I think, just as an actor. But I must say that my particular skill sets or natural kind of proclivities lean towards writing and producing and directing, for sure directing. I love to paint the picture. I love actors. I love having a specialty in every single department. I think the director has to have a specialty in lighting and lenses, in acting, in wardrobe, in post, in producing, and then has to be able to collaborate and depend on the specialist and the leader in every one of those departments. In other words, as director, I understand every single department, and yet I am not as good at any department as the head in that department, right? And so I think that the skill set of a great director is really trusting and is really collaborating, saying, hey, how are we going to do this the best that we can possibly do it? And in short, I really love that challenge and joy of collaborating under pressure. I find it to be one of the most wonderful wonderful things. And I in every, whether as an actor or as a writer, producer, it demands that in each facet of production, but particularly as director, it's with every single department. So I certainly enjoy that enormously.
Sebastian, man, I have had an incredible time with you, finding out more about you, just some of the things that you're working on. we definitely have to do this again because we can talk for hours and chat even more. And before I let you go, anything else you'd like to share with the audience, the viewer, the listeners, and your supporters out there?
Oh, thanks so much. I love seeing your face. I swear you have the smile coming out of your eyes. It's such a joy. Thank you so much for that. I have a movie coming out that I directed and produced and wrote, and it's based on a book, and it's an epic, sweeping love story. It's called Grace and Grit, and it'll be out on or about June 4th, everywhere movies stream and in theaters. And the website is graceandgrit.net, but you can just look at Grace and Grit trailer, Grace and Grit movie teaser, and I'd love for people to go see that film. And thanks for having me. I can't wait to speak with you again.
Hey, we'll do it, my friend. Much success and safe journeys in Hawaii.
Thank you, sir. That
was the awesome Sebastian Siegel. Just a pleasure to chat to. That didn't make no sense. To chat with. I'm sorry. I'm speaking Polish today. But just a real pleasure, to talk to and find out what he's up to. And, I like talking, throw little scripts in there. And for some of you out there, when I use the word script, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And enjoy chatting it up about that. Looking forward to some other projects that Sebastian is in and others as well. I really enjoyed him in The Family That Prays when he came in, and Kathy Bates was like, "You don't understand, or you don't recognize your old partner." I love Kathy Bates. Her and Alfre Woodard. Alfre Woodard, to me, is one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood. She made the movie First Contact, the Star Trek movie. Remember when Jean-Luc went off and everything? They said the line must be drawn here. And remember she said, "You broke your little ship." Remember that? That was pretty awesome.